Hello everyone on YouTube, welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you why you should not, and I mean repeat not, upgrade to macOS Sequoia, even if your Mac currently supports macOS Sequoia. And this applies to all supported and unsupported Macs. The first reason you shouldn't upgrade to macOS Sequoia is, number one, macOS Sequoia is unstable because it's still new software. It's incredibly slow, even on the Macs that currently support it, and there are still a lot of problems with it, mainly regarding security software, and that brings me on to the next option. Number two, the Mail app currently uses POP3 and an old implementation of IMAP, which means that you cannot sign into your Outlook.com account with the Mail app still, and the Mail app, I strongly discourage anyone using that app. It hasn't been updated since Catalina, when it got the layout that we know and love today. It has got new features, but it hasn't had any new security improvements. The Mail app, it's a goner. Better mail apps are out there. Mailbird, Thunderbird, Blue Mail, you name it. There's better alternatives like Microsoft Outlook, or you can just use the website provided by your email provider. Number three, VoiceOver. Now, VoiceOver has improved since Sequoia 15.0. It got fixed in 15.1, but it's still a glitchy mess. I mean, they've only fixed the notification system, but it isn't perfect. I mean, currently you can view your notifications, but you can't respond to them. Meaning that you can't say, if an app wants to send you notifications, you can't click allow. The next thing about macOS Sequoia, and I know a lot of users hate this, and it's to do with Gatekeeper. Now, a lot of times you're going to want to run an app from an unverified developer on your Mac. Apple's removed the ability to just right click and click open, and you can't just use the terminal command now. You explicitly have to tell macOS to enable the anywhere option. And let's be honest, there are still some apps out there that are not Apple notarized. A good example of this is the fully free version of Mozilla Thunderbird, Betterbird, and MailSpring, and MailMate, and all the other fun macOS apps that some people may want to use. Now, obviously, if you're using apps like Firefox, Chrome, LibreOffice, they're all Apple sanctioned, but occasionally you're going to have that app that is not Apple sanctioned, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. So that clicking sound you can hear is my Mac actually installing macOS Catalina, because I had to do a full restore. I've got a 2017 iMac and it came with Catalina, so I'm going to have to install macOS Catalina, upgrade to macOS Monterey, and then reinstall macOS Ventura, because I'm going to be staying on Ventura now. I'm not going anywhere near Sequoia. I don't recommend people use Sequoia, even if you're on a supported Mac. I definitely don't recommend OpenCore Legacy Patcher Macs run Sequoia, because there's just so many problems with the patcher and Sequoia. Another problem with Sequoia is the slow boot times. Now, this applies to any Mac that can run Sequoia, any Intel Mac or any Apple Silicon Mac. macOS Sequoia, even on OpenCore Legacy Patcher, had the same boot time as macOS Monterey, and that was 2 minutes on my iMac. I was using an external SSD for boot because you can't easily go inside the internals of a modern day iMac and upgrade the storage, which I like the fact that you can't do that, but some people may not like the fact that you can do that and don't even bother trying that on an M series iMac because you can't. So what other things do I not like about macOS Sequoia? It was just released for the sake of having a release. There are no new features that stand out for any Mac. I mean, not everyone's going to use Apple Intelligence. And let me shut the door. Let me close this. Oh, it is closed. Sorry about the noise. So as I was saying, not everyone wants to use macOS AI features, and unfortunately, all the macOS Sequoia updates are featured. Have that featured, and if you're not going to be using macOS AI features, especially on a supported Intel Mac, then there's no need to be running macOS Sequoia. macOS Ventura and macOS Sonoma are perfectly usable systems, and heck, I still know a few people running macOS Mojave, but you get it. macOS Sequoia is not a big release compared to the last few macOS versions we've been getting. macOS Ventura, on the other hand, gave us the brand new System Settings app. It gave us background sounds, and it gave us an easier way to access our most commonly used features. macOS Sonoma gave us the Print Center app and live speech. macOS Sequoia, on the other hand, gave us not so much. So you can essentially say it improves upon the features that macOS Sonoma had. Hence why it can run on most of the Macs that can run Sonoma. Well, all except for the 2018 and 2019 MacBook Airs. So those are all the reasons I don't recommend running macOS Sequoia. What do I recommend running instead of macOS Sequoia on your supported or unsupported Mac? If your unsupported Mac is struggling on macOS Sequoia and you've got a non-metal system like me, go and run Sonoma or Ventura. But please turn off automatic updates, because you're going to be forced on to Sequoia, especially on Sonoma. You're going to be nagged to be upgraded to macOS Sequoia. So in order to stop that, you're going to want to enable that software update is turned off. I mean, don't let Apple install an operating system that just can't be that. It's just not suitable for day-to-day use. I'd wait until at least macOS Sequoia 15.5 in the spring, when all the bugs are sorted, and you can go ahead and upgrade. But I don't recommend upgrading to the likes of the earlier releases, macOS Sequoia 15.0, macOS Sequoia 15.1, macOS Sequoia 15.2 series, because they are where the major bugs are still present. I recommend at least waiting until the spring when all the bugs are ironed out, so that you can go ahead and upgrade and you're going to have a decent user experience. Everything else though, what do I recommend? Well, those Macs that are unsupported for Sonoma and Sequoia, that is the 2017 Macs, they can still run macOS Ventura until probably July of 2025. But even then, modern day browsers are still going to support macOS Ventura. I mean, Google Chrome currently requires macOS Big Sur and newer, so that means macOS Big Sur, macOS Monterey, macOS Ventura, macOS Sonoma, and macOS Sequoia. And Mozilla Firefox, nothing has been said about when it's going to discontinue support for the oldest version of macOS it supports, which is currently macOS Catalina. So currently Firefox supports macOS Catalina, macOS Catalina all the way to macOS Sequoia. And if you're running macOS Mojave and High Sierra, God forbid, if you're still running those operating systems, you are clearly out of luck. You're going to be on Firefox 115 ESR, which is rapidly losing support. The latest ESR is Firefox 128 ESR. And Google Chrome and all the other browsers based on it don't run on Mojave and High Sierra anyway. the latest code base was version 1.16, which was released in August 2023. And Chrome doesn't work on Catalina anyway, since the last version was 1.28, I believe, was the last version of Chrome to run on macOS 10 Catalina. So, which operating systems do I recommend? Well, definitely consider staying on macOS Ventura if you can. macOS Ventura is still getting updates. It hasn't had any issues. I mean, a lot of the issues have been fixed in macOS Sequoia Ventura, macOS Ventura 13.5.1. So Ventura's sweet spot was the 13.5 series. But what about macOS Sonoma though? What if your Mac can run macOS Sonoma? Definitely consider installing that, because Sonoma has had no features that have been detrimental. Not even in the very first version of macOS Sonoma have I experienced any issues. macOS Sonoma was the sweet spot for macOS, and that's going to get updates right up until 2026. But just because a macOS version is EOL doesn't mean you have to jump ship. I mean, not all apps support the latest macOS features. I mean, I see people saying, hey, I just upgraded to macOS Sequoia and I can't run Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Premiere Pro. Well, you updated without doing your research first. Don't upgrade to a new operating system on the day that it releases, even though Apple wants you to. And it's becoming very difficult now to stop that, because even OpenCore legacy patcher Macs have been having issues with Sequoia, and unfortunately people installing macOS Monterey and newer have been thrown into this rabbit hole, because they're going to be forced onto Sequoia no matter what, unless they actually turn off macOS auto updates. And I don't recommend that. In fact, I don't recommend OpenCore Legacy Patcher to begin with. It's just not worth the hassle. You're better off buying a new Mac that can run the version of macOS that you want to run, so that you're not dealing with the hassle of running OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Now, I know that OpenCore Legacy Patcher is good for running legacy Macs on newer software, but yeah, it's just too technically inclined. No one's going to know about root patches. You've got all sorts of issues. You're better off not running OpenCore Legacy Patcher unless you're technically inclined. Most Mac users are not technically inclined. They just want a computer that can browse the internet, read emails, and get their work done. So they're not going to want to run something like OpenCore Legacy Patcher just to get a new version of macOS on their system and have problems later on the line. They're going to want a stable system, and that's why I recommend not using OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Stick to the version of macOS that your Mac is officially supported on. I mean, like for my Mac, it's supported on macOS Ventura. If you've got a 2015 Mac, you can run Monterey. And Monterey runs on the following Macs. If I remember, I'll go through all the versions of macOS that are currently supported. macOS Ventura supports the following Macs: MacBook Pro and iMacs 2017 and newer, Mac Mini 2018 and later, all Mac Pro, the Mac Pro, I believe 2019 and later, because the trash can Mac Pro from 2013 could only run up to macOS Monterey. That's the only 2013 Mac that can run Monterey, by the way. Hey, that rhymes. I'm a poet and I don't even know it. Anyway, so going back to the Macs that can run Ventura, so the iMac Pro, all models of course, the Mac Studio, and a lot of the newer Macs of course. So you're looking at 2017 as the bare minimum for macOS Ventura. macOS Monterey supports the iMac from 2015 and newer, the Mac Mini from 2014 and newer, the Mac Pro from 2013 and newer. I'm surprised that can even run Monterey, but it was probably powerful for its time anyway and had hardware that was suited for Monterey. So that's that. MacBook Air, I'm not sure about the MacBook Airs. for both Monterey and Ventura, but I should imagine that they're fairly recent MacBook Airs. macOS Big Sur runs on Macs from 2014 and later, so that's iMac. Never heard of an iMac. An iMac that's from 2014 and newer. The MacBook Pros from 2013 and newer, and a bunch of other Macs that I don't know. When you go down the list of versions of macOS, it gets complicated to track them. That ringtone is actually from Roland. It's an intro to a Roland demo song. I like Roland keyboards. The intro even. So when you get further down the line of macOS, it's hard to track. I can only track the three most recent versions of macOS. So saying that, then what about macOS Sonoma and macOS Sequoia? Well, Sonoma's are fairly recent. Sonoma runs on iMacs from 2019 and newer, MacBook Pros from 2018 and newer, MacBook Air 2018 and newer, Mac Mini 2018 and newer. Pretty much, you're gonna see a pattern as we go along. So, yeah, I'm only going to be focusing on the major Macs. So, macOS Sequoia drops the 2018 and 2019 MacBook Airs, which is probably for the best. I wouldn't recommend trying to run Sequoia on them at all. So what about the version of macOS that you can hear my Mac trying to install? What about Catalina? macOS Catalina can be installed on Macs as far back as 2012. So if you've got a 2012 Mac, you can run Catalina on it. Now those Macs started off on Lion. They got the updates that they got were Lion, Mountain Lion, Mavericks, Yosemite, El Capitan, Sierra, High Sierra, Mojave, and then they ended on Catalina. Now, macOS High Sierra, on the other hand, God forbid, if you're still on that operating system, you definitely need to upgrade to a newer Mac or a newer operating system. macOS High Sierra supports Macs as far back as 2019, in particular the 2000. Oh no, not the two. I got mixed up. I meant to say 2009. The 2009 iMac is the only 2009 Mac that can run High Sierra. I think they maybe even more. The 2000. I don't know if they did a Mac Pro from 2009. They did a 2010. That could definitely run High Sierra. And I think that got stuck on High Sierra as well. So yeah. So a lot of the Macs that started on Snow Leopard can run High Sierra. So any of the Macs that started on Snow Leopard, well, there are Macs that started on Snow Leopard that aren't getting High Sierra. So we're looking at the 2007 and 2008 Mac lines. But if your Mac is from 2010 or 2011, then you're definitely eligible to be running macOS High Sierra. But the primary focus of this video was to give you a few reasons why I don't recommend anyone upgrading to macOS Sequoia and the alternatives that people can go. Now, what if, say, your Intel Mac is not supported for the latest version of macOS? You can't run anything newer than High Sierra, which is a lot of Macs, and you can't run any newer apps. Well, if you've got a slightly older MacBook Pro, and I'll show you a slightly older MacBook Pro, this bulky 2010, which I'm showing you here, if I can hold it up to the right camera. This is a mid-2010 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's currently running High Sierra, but it can run... I've tested it with various Linux operating systems. Ubuntu is recommended. Don't run Linux Mint, run Ubuntu on this Mac and you're going to have a field day. You can run Debian on it, And I strictly recommend Debian stable because it'll work well with the older Mac in the long run. Don't run testing, go for stable, and you're gonna have a field day. Now, if you're gonna be running Debian on the 2010 MacBook Pro, you're gonna want to do something straight after you install Debian. You're gonna want to install the Linux headers for your kernel, and you're gonna want to install Broadcom-STA-DKMS. You can only install the Broadcom proprietary drivers. Make sure that you've got non-free firmware sources enabled, because you're going to need to use that source to get the drivers that you're going to want to install. Once you've got the driver installed, reboot your system and you're going to notice you're not going to have Wi-Fi. There's a trick to doing this, and it's mentioned on the Debian wiki. All you got to do is close your MacBook so that it goes into sleep mode, and then open it again, type your login password, and you should see Wi-Fi networks come up. I don't know why that happens, but hey, it works. And that applies to Debian 11 and newer. So that's how to revive those older Macs that are stuck on High Sierra, like the 2010 MacBook Pro I just showed you. So anyway,
pause with stop.
This is possibly my last video of 2024. So before I end this video, I want to say thank you all for supporting my channel. I can't believe I even got to 500 subscribers a couple of months ago. But I'm very grateful to all my supporters. And hey, we'll see what 2025 brings. So I'm going to end this video by saying I hope you all, everyone who's watching this, has a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So thank you ever so much. This is Jordan signing off, saying Merry Christmas, everyone.